Hey everybody, what's up? So if you know me, I am a big fan of what you would call youth culture, especially youth culture from the past, counterculture. I think it's interesting how a group of young people can say, we don't want to be like our parents or grandparents. We want to be something better. And there's a time period I believe gets underlooked when it comes to counterculture or youth culture, and that is the 1950s. Now, I know what you're thinking, Jane, what? Greasers, I get it, but really, that was just a very conservative time, which in many ways it was, but here's the thing. At any time, there's of conservative, and we kind of saw it kind of in the Trump era. There's always a dark underbelly of things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, things are very conservative, but there's like this kind of, you could tell under the darkness there's a place where all the outsiders and the freaks roam. Like, for example, beatniks were coming out, and a lot of those like beat generation guys were gay, Allen Ginsberg and all that stuff. They were gay and had like really radical politics, and I'm not a communist, but I do find it kind of interesting, and also, rock and roll was coming up at the time, like Little Richard doing that kind of thing of the piano, and him being not just a black man but a gay man singing Tutti Frutti. What brings me to one of my all-time favorite films, Rebel Without a Cause, 1955. James Dean, man. If you're gonna watch this movie for anything, James Dean. And, I don't even know what character, the name of the character he plays, because to me, he's just James Dean. He plays himself perfectly. Basically, James Dean plays this kind of, I would argue, the first misunderstood outcast. He was very much in the vein of what so much, I mean, if we think of like the Breakfast Club, would it happen today without Rebel Without a Cause? That's just a fact. Because here's the thing, if we think about like the 80s and 90s boom of like, and even like the early 2000s with the indie stuff, of just teen marketing. And when I say teen marketing, I mean like rebel teen marketing. We can thank Rebel Without a Cause for that. Now, before, I don't know if it came out, I think it came out before. Yeah, before Rebel Without a Cause, we got movies like Blackboard Jungle. And I did a bit of that film back when I used to do a thing called the Brain Zoo podcast. But here's the thing, I think Rebel Without a Cause is way better than Blackboard Jungle. Because it shows this time, even though it's set in the 50s, I mean, it was made in the 50s. Even though it was made in the 50s, it's so, you can watch this film now and get a sense of this is what kids are going through now. Basically, James Dean plays this, teenage kid who basically is misunderstood, and his parents don't understand him. And there's so many, I don't know if this is what they was going for, but there's so many overtones about this movie, too. Don't make no mistake, I think they probably slipped something in here, but I'm not for sure, but there are some gay overtones in this movie. You know, and when I say gay overtones, I don't mean like it's overly done, but it's like it makes sense that this was a pretty radical film, and it makes sense at the time that they would do something like that, because this was a time where, you know, in the 1950s, gay wasn't seen as a good thing, you know, to most people. Now, he has a buddy in this movie who you could tell something is going on here. You know, I mean, he had a girlfriend in this movie, but you can kind of, you get, actually, there's a whole video about this I found. If I can find it again, I can link it, but, it's a good video. I forget the YouTuber's name for a second, but I'll link it down, and she can probably do it better than I can, and heck, I'm even bi, so, but, but aside from that, there's other things in there what just goes against so much of a structure of the time. You know, it's not like your typical 50s movie at all, is what I'm trying to say. It's very interesting, and it talks about gender issues straight up, not just hidden it, but it has James Dean has a father who I believe, if I remember right, he got abortion. And basically, no one talked about abortion before this. No one really talked about abortion movies, really. And also, he kind of has to do the mom's work, and James Dean don't like that. But it doesn't say, like, oh, James Dean is necessarily bad because he doesn't like his father to act effeminate or whatever. It's pointing a woe of, like, the times, you know, and saying maybe the times we're living in now is not right. You know, there's just I'm sorry if I'm just rambling on, but there's just so much to talk about in this movie. You know, it's not just your typical 50s film again. It's there's something there, you know what I mean? And, you know what? This film was almost banned by a bunch of censors when it came out. It was a big deal. And I would really see it. Again, outside of maybe like a couple films like Blackboard Jungle or maybe like the Wild Ones, we never really had a full-on teenage film like this. So tell me what you think about this film. It's personally one of my favorite films. I give it a 10 out of 10. Okay, see ya.